Carly Gregg, a 15-year-old from Rankin County, Mississippi, has been sentenced to life in prison after being convicted of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. The sentencing took place on Friday, September 20, following a jury's decision, according to reports from multiple sources including the Clarion Ledger, WAPT, and WLBT. Gregg was emotional as the verdict was read, WAPT reported. She had been just 14 years old when the tragic events occurred on March 19th. Prosecutors stated that she shot her mother, 40-year-old Ashley Smiley, using her mother's gun inside their Brandon, Mississippi home. According to the Clarion Ledger, WLBT, and WJTV, after killing her mother, Gregg waited to ambush and shoot her stepfather, 39-year-old Heath Smiley, when he returned home. However, she fled the scene and was later apprehended near the house. While Gregg's defense didn't dispute that she killed her mother, they argued that she was suffering from a mental health crisis at the time and had no memory of the shooting. Dr. Andrew Clark, a child psychologist, testified on September 17 that Gregg had been grumpy and irritable at school that day and couldn't concentrate. He also mentioned that she claimed her memory went blank after letting her dog out in the backyard. Clark revealed that Gregg had symptoms of depression and was previously on medication that left her feeling numb. She also had a history of hearing voices, which had intensified before the incident, and had engaged in self-harm, the Clarion Ledger reported. According to courtroom footage shared by Court TV, Carly Gregg, a 15-year-old from Rankin County, Mississippi, calmly walked into her parents' room after returning home on March 19th, armed with a .357 Magnum revolver. It was hidden beneath the family's mattress, a place she knew all too well. But Carly didn't hesitate. With the gun in her hands, she made her way to her mother's room, concealing her deadly intention until the moment she fired. The jury, seated in tense silence, listened intently as State Prosecutor Catherine White Newman laid out the tragic sequence of events to the court. Gregg shot her mother, 40-year-old Ashley Smiley, 3 times. The powerful bullets tore through the quiet suburban home in Brandon, Mississippi, echoing the violent break in what seemed like an ordinary life. Ashley Smiley never saw it coming. To those who knew her, she was a devoted mother, a caring wife, someone who seemed to have her life under control. But beneath the surface of this family, something far darker was brewing. That day, a series of unimaginable events would forever alter the lives of those close to the Smiley family, and it all began with Carly. After the crime, the horror didn't stop there. Carly invited a friend over to her house, acting as if nothing had happened. When the friend arrived, Carly greeted her with a chilling question. "Are you squeamish around dead bodies?" The friend, likely thinking it was a joke, followed Carly to her mother's bedroom, where Ashley Smiley's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor. The weight of what Carly had done finally became apparent, and it was then that her friend realized the horrifying reality of the situation. Can you imagine the terror that friend must have felt in that moment? Not only was she standing in the presence of a brutal crime scene, but she was also in the company of the person responsible. It's enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. During closing arguments, State Attorney Michael Smith was firm in his belief that Carly was fully aware of her actions. He described how Carly meticulously planned the murder, retrieved the gun, and shot her mother without hesitation. He pointed to the fact that Carly waited for her stepfather, clearly indicating premeditation. To Smith, this was no mental health episode. It was cold, calculated murder. The jury seemed to agree. On Friday, September 20th, after deliberating the evidence, they returned with a verdict of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. Carly Gregg was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of her mother, with an additional 30 years added for her other charges. This case raises a lot of questions, not only about Carly's mental state, but also about the justice system. Should someone so young, with clear signs of mental health struggles, be sentenced to life without parole? Or does the severity of her crime justify such a harsh punishment? In the end, the story of Carly Gregg is one that lingers long after the courtroom has emptied. It's a story of tragedy, of a family torn apart by violence, and of a young girl lost in the dark corners of her own mind. Whether Carly was a victim or a perpetrator, or perhaps both, is something that will likely continue to be debated for years to come. But one thing is certain: the events of March 19, 2023, will never be forgotten by those who lived through it, and the legacy of Carly Gregg's actions will haunt Rankin County for generations.